just as you are aware, we are in the raining period already, and you have experienced a rain or two maybe. But with the issue of flooding, the conversation has come up again. And interestingly, it has come to stay regarding what happened last week in Niger State, precisely Mokau, where we saw what the rain actually did and how it destroyed and displaced a lot of persons, with information reaching us that it actually claimed over 200 lives. Now, to let you know that the National Emergency Management Agency says it has deployed its officials in 15 high-risk states to further enlighten residents on the impending floods and the need to relocate from flood-prone areas, saying victims of the tragedy in Mokau, Niger State, lived in gully areas and were caught unawares by the recent flooding disaster in the state, despite official warnings. The head of the press unit at NEMA, Manjo Ezekiel, said the states include Kogi State, Imo, Enugu, Adamawa, Taraba, Borno, Zamfara, Katsina, and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. He also lamented the many victims of the May 23rd flooding built their residence in gully areas prone to floods. The flood in Mokau, a commercial hub in Niger State, claimed over 200 lives, with hundreds of others declared missing. Now let's quickly file in this report and move on.
Exactly 1 day after NIMEX's prediction of massive flooding in some states and the FCT, disaster struck. On Friday, May 28, 2025, flooding wreaked havoc in the town of Mokwa in Niger State. Structures and farmlands were washed away and more than 200 persons killed. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who represented President Bola Tinubu, touched down in Mokwa Wednesday afternoon precisely at 12:30 p.m. Speaking, Senator Shettima promised the affected residents immediate federal government's intervention, announcing a donation of 2 billion naira and 20 trucks of grains to the affected community.
The federal government will take care of the drainages in Mokwa town. Yeah, the president has already directed the Minister of State for Agriculture to relocate to MENA for the next 1 week to see that 20 trucks of assorted food commodities are delivered to this distressed community. Most importantly, we have to find windows of rebuilding lives and hopes of the people. The federal government will expend 2 billion naira in partnership with the Niger State government to see that homes destroyed by this flood are reconstructed.
On his part, Niger State Governor Umar Bago, who was represented by his deputy Yakubu Garba, thanked the federal government for standing with the state in its moment of grief. Etsunupe and chairman of the Niger Council of Traditional Rulers, Yahya Abubakar, commended the vice president for coming to console the people in person. He appreciated President Bola Tinubu for directing the immediate release of interventions to the affected communities. Ikaro Atta, ITV News.
Well, so there you have it. And just report reaching us just this morning says that the Niger Bridge has actually collapsed and it has affected the prices of tomatoes and pepper as well. Now, joining me to unravel all of this and more is a public analyst, Solomon Igiogbe. Thank you so much for coming on board today.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, what was your first reaction when you heard the incident that happened in Niger State?
My first reaction was the usual reaction of every Nigerian, like the Nigerian government that is a reactive government. Because even listening to the news, you discover that it was said that it was exactly a day after Nanet's warning. And I asked, was 1 day enough as warning for such a flood disaster? My answer definitely will be no. Painfully, Nigerian government is a reactive government. And if you go ask, they'll tell you modalities are in place. What are those modalities? You said you are talking about relocation. What are the efforts of government in relocating these disaster-prone areas? Because, of course, like they said, the inhabitants of those areas who are predominantly farmers, if you like, peasants, have actually no means of regular daily survival. Therefore, it would be right to say that they had just lived on hope. And you know what it means to live on hope? And then the disaster came and had washed off their community. You are donating 2 billion naira. What will 2 billion naira do to the lives? Record has it that over 200 lives were lost. And then about 100 declared missing. Now we are talking about 300 lives in that disaster. And to put the record straight, they are not referring to Niger Bridge, so that people don't get it wrong. The bridge in Niger State,
Right.
connecting Mokwa. But again, what are the measures put in place by the federal government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria towards tackling the issue of flooding? Because the projection is that 30 states out of the 36 states in Nigeria, including Abuja, may be affected by the flooding that is coming. So the Mokwa May flood disaster was just a warning to what is likely to happen. And now, don't forget, we have a riverine area in the Niger Delta region, which means so much lives are at risk in this flood projection. So it is not just about early warnings, campaigns, crusade. Government should be proactive, should put reasonable and feasible, tangible measures in ensuring that lives are not lost. It's not about going to put trucks that politicians will not use to compensate their loyalists. No. It should be measures towards ensuring, because we're talking about erosion-prone area. Right. There are lowlands. So government should be looking at highlands where they should make measures in relocating them. You're talking about campaigns and relocating people. Have you provided transportation means? Have you provided succor? Have you provided temporary shelters? Are there shanties built? Are there camps? Are there food provisions? Knowing that these people are not the elites.
Well, maybe it's all encompassing in the 2 billion naira, that the vice presidential team I was talking about. But let's quickly move over to the causes. I saw in the news that the federal government came out to say that one of the major causes of the flooding that occurred in Mokwa, Niger State, is the issue of climate change, number one, and the fact that that place is actually a flood-prone area. What's your assessment of it? Climate change.
The climate change, that's what I'm saying. It's a flood-prone area. Government knows. So it is not this reactive measure of bringing 2 billion and 20 trucks of grain. It would have meant, because this, except they're telling me that those saddled with the task of getting projections for flooding, rains, and all of that, didn't do their job, which means somebody was not managing their job. I'm sure that a month, 2, 3 before the floods took place, those saddled with the task of management and forecast would have known ab initio that there will be flooding in Mokwa. And then what government needed to do, not in a reactive measure, but in a proactive measure, was to go to Mokwa, sensitize them, create measures, tangible and reasonable measures, by providing vehicles and letting them know that by this projection, this lowland will be washed off by flood. Therefore, we expect you to move from this lowland, this flood-prone area, to an area where we feel that when the rains are falling and the flood is coming, will not wash you away, and then provide camps. When I say camps, well, you know what we know as camps now, IDP, eternally displaced. You must have this projection ahead and then make measures available to have these people not displaced, but catered for. Because if they are catered for, those 200 lives would not have been lost. If you remove them from this flooding area like this picture alone will show to you that government did not have plans for them. It's not just how many of them have access to television? Yes, of course, we know with all due respect to the northern clan, they have access to their radio. But how many of those information were translated in their local dialects? You just go on national television and just make one day warning, and by the second day you expected these peasants who, what you are seeing here will show to you that these are people living with minimal income.
Speaking about NEMA's efforts, let's begin to highlight couple of things that ought to have been done, right? So you've talked about the issue of public awareness campaign, educating residents on flood preparedness and all. Emergency preparedness training, that's number 2. Distribution of first aid kits, collaboration with state authorities. How many of these things do you think actually went down the line?
Nothing. I can tell you without fears. Without fears, I can tell you that nothing. You see, let me tell you what we have discovered with government. With all due respect, is that when even materials are supplied to NEMA and to SEMA, because the NEMA is a National Emergency Management and the SEMA is a State Emergency Management Agency, what they usually do, they hoard them. They hoard them. And then sometimes they have manpower issue. And most often, they have low funding. Now, it is not just, I've just told you the basic issues. Sometimes when they are provided, the Nigerian factor will play. When they provide blankets and jackets, that's when they realize that their girlfriends and their nephews and nieces need jackets and those materials. And then sometimes they are not distributed from the federal to the state on time. And sometimes when they are, there are no enough manpower to cater for these needs. Because you can't be asking them to go to places like Mokwa without adequate preparation by way of transportation for the staff of NEMA or SEMA, who is supposedly expected to make these distributions. And then you do not expect that, even though he's a worker, there must be incentives. The one you call out-of-pocket expenditures, or what's it called? The ESTA codes, simply put. And then when they write, before it comes, the flood would have washed away. I can tell you, though not too sure, that even the requisitions, or if you like, the applications for funds, if for any reason they had projected and they knew ahead for these things to be taken to those areas, would not have come until after this flood. And then that's where you see them doing fire brigade approach. And so these are part of the issues. Government let me tell you, I'll just give you a simple example. We all know now that there's usually gridlock between this junction, Ogwa, this junction to Ogwa, before 7 up here, between there and Igosa, this ITV communication village. There are bad spots owing to damage on the road. Those damages will not be fixed now. And you know it will be cheaper to fix it now. And it will be easier to fix it now. No, until it becomes dead tracks and well holes, not potholes, before government now becomes reactive in fixing them. But they are there now. They are washing away. They are caving away. They are parting away. Government will not react. And so that is usually the way it happens in Nigeria. So for me, my heart goes out to the family of those who lost their lives. Well, I can also tell you too that the supposed 20 billion naira being mentioned here, politics will be played. A lot of things will happen. We will hear later, and you'll remember me.
Okay.
Where either the money never comes, it's just an audio money, or the money comes, then politics comes in, and then they will not remember that you are in party A or party B. These are the issues in Nigeria. So now, we should not here doing all lamentations.
Right.
We should also begin to also provide solutions.
Right. Just before we get to the solutions, I would love us to begin to highlight a couple of impact this flooding incident that happened on May 23rd, right there in Niger State, would have on not just the residents of Niger State alone and the Mokwa residents, but also the nation as well, because we're seeing that tomato price and pepper price surge is on already, and I'm hoping it doesn't trickle down to other parts of the country, because that's what usually happens. Well, aside that, what other impact do you think this would cause on the life of Nigerians?
The already Mokwa Bay disaster will definitely, because Nigerians are good at taking advantage. I can tell you. Oh, yes. As much as it has created, of course, it has destabilized the economic activities within that area. It has affected lives. Those grieving will not be thinking of going to the farm. And of course, their farmlands that have also been washed away. You understand? They are reserved. They are markets. And so when you don't have, you can't give. But that will trickle down to the common man, because there will be no shipment of farm produce from that area to the outside. And those who already had would stock it and inflate price. You understand? And that's how it's going to trickle to other goods. And before you know, it will affect transportation. Transportation will affect the next goods, and that's how it's going to be. And that's why government must, as much as, because we don't care much. Sometimes when we look at the system, Americans, or the way Americans value the lives of an average American citizen, if Nigeria government could as much as value 20-30% of the life of an average Nigerian, the much as the American government values theirs, I'm sure a lot of these things would have been taken care of. But here we are not doing anything. So the impact is going to be huge, because we're also making projections from the projections that we have from
NEMA.
NANET, or what they call them, is that about 30 out of the 36 states will be affected by this flooding. And let me tell you, it's not a city like Abuja that will be affected. It's not, yes, of course, the impact will be in areas like Benin City, but let me tell you, the most impact will be in riverine areas and villages who are predominantly farmers. So what I expect government should do now is not just to keep their mouth shut, is to do massive campaign, massive awareness campaign, and then reach out and look at a way of reaching out to the communities, because when they do this projection, they give you areas where it will be affected. But when they say Edo, it's not the entire Edo as it were. They'll tell you areas like Igobazuwa, like Funama, like Ajamora, like, riverine areas, Okada. They'll give you areas. And then we expect that government should do everything possible to ensure the relocation, because when you are looking at it, areas that will be badly affected. Relocation of those people from those deep pots to a higher ground, so that when it affects, it can only affect goods and not lives, so that the lives can also come back again, recoup, and make better impact.
Okay,
so
we need to...
the impact now negatively is that there will be high cost of food stuff.
Okay, we'll get to all of the impact, but we need to quickly take a short break now. Thank you so much for sticking with us on This Morning on ITV. Our major focus and attention has been on the issue of the flooding, with what happened during the course of last month right there in Niger State. I still have my guest, Mr. Solomon Igiogbe, right here in the studio with me. So you are trying to highlight a couple of impacts that this flooding will definitely, be caused.
Yeah, and they are negative. It will increase price of food commodities. It will increase hardship, because when price of food commodities, then the cost of living becomes skyrocketed again, worse than as it is, and then it's going to cause a whole, it's going to be a chain reaction. So for me, what government should do is to look at a way, not just succoring the already impacted area, but look at a positive way of immediately, because I've tried to look at, I've been asking myself, what are the measures? Because when you ask them, call SEMA, call NEMA, they will tell you, we are putting modalities in place. Can you make the modalities real? Explain it. They will not have anything that we are doing campaigns, we are doing sensitization. I'm not sure that SEMA, I'm talking of Edo State's emergency management team, have come to pay to ITV to help do sensitization jingle. I can say I'm not sure, unless you want to debunk that.
But we also have the National Orientation Agency. What's their duty?
Do they exist?
They do.
Oh.
I mean, recently they came out to react to a trending video. So
Yeah, because let me tell you why they will react to trending video. Obviously, that video would have had a negative impact on the government, as it were. They are a reactive agency. They are a toothless bulldog. Let me tell you why I was growing up. What I used to know, there used to be MAMSA in the days of Mama Uku. And then it grew to what you now have as NOA, National Orientation Agency. That duty is supposed to sensitize the public, not just on issues like this, but on general norms, etiquettes, so to speak, on general duties, and then patriotism. They used to share flyers, handouts to schools, establishments, teaching nationalism and patriotism. Where are they? You don't hear from them. They only are interested in you coming to use their hall, rent their hall for events. I think that's all they do. So I don't count National Orientation Agency. In fact, if it does, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I know it exists on paper, but in reality, in fact, they don't even have trained professional. They have one of the.
Okay, so speaking about existing, this is not the first time we are seeing something like this happen in the country. In fact, in Niger State, this is not the first time they're having the experience of flooding happen in the state. And this is where we are, 2025, we're still seeing a reoccurrence of what happened a couple of years ago with lives being lost and properties being lost. What are the lessons that the government of the day can learn from all of this moving forward?
Yeah, the lesson they can learn, which they should learn, is that when signs of disasters are coming, when the one they refer to as early warning, government should learn to be proactive. They should put politics and sentiments, parochial sentiment aside, and greed aside, and do the work. And then, when at the level of the federal government you do the work, and then there's a failure at the level of the state, sanction those responsible for those actions that are not carried out. Because as it is, it's pathetic to say in a village, in a community as small as Mokwa, 200 or 300 lives have been lost. Waiting can remain. And obviously, they might be breadwinners. So, and you know that also would have increased poverty in that area. And so it means that poverty index in Nigeria is growing. So I expect that as we move on, government should make deliberate effort to rejuvenate agencies of government like NEMA, SEMA, and all other. In fact, it's either they decide to rejuvenate, reorientate the National Orientation Agency, refurbish and then rebrand it to live up to its expectation. Because when you ask them, they tell you they lack funding. Then if you cannot fund an agency, why establish it? So I expect to, because when you said NOA came out to make comments, I am also sure that NOA had paid ITV to help them air jingles. Because these are their duties. Those days, now when they grow up now, tank criers that they call them, I remember, I can't forget those Peugeot vehicle, station wagon, that they ride Cinemobile. They will have horn speakers hung on them, and then somebody in the vehicle will playing sounds and making announcements, giving you warnings. I'm not sure they went to Mocha to make such warnings. And then you talk about being proactive. There's no proactive thing there.
As I tend to leave the conversation here, because over time we tend to put all of the blame on the government, which I know they have a major role to play in all of this. But there are those who would say that the people, the citizens also do have their own role, the residents of that community, and in all other parts of the country have their own role they get to play. Things of trying to, throw dirt on the road, the drainage system and all of that. Do you also toll in that line of thought?
What does an average Nigerian actually have to do? Can they see when you have gully erosions ravaging your community? What can you do as a community? It's government actually that can tackle it. Well, yeah, talking because I hear they said they are going to open up drains, they are going to deseat drains. Is it now you should be deseating drains in this rainy season as it is now? Something should have started before now. That's on the one side. So if you ask me efforts of individual, well, in urban area where you have drainages, yes, the duties of the common citizens is to ensure that you clean the environment, do not block the drains, don't drop dirt on the drains, help to deseat the drains around you, the gutters in front of your house and all of that. And then it's duty of government to come out. And see, not until environmental sanitation day, even if you park dirt on the road, they won't come unless they are coming to give you bills for a job that they didn't do. These are part of the issues. So, like I said, we have fears that governments in Nigeria, whether you call it state or I call it federal, it's been very reactive than being proactive. But I would advise, because Benin will say, if you don't have a good home, you won't go to the farm and start crying. So I would appeal to the governor of the state to look into the areas, erosion-prone areas or disaster-prone areas in the state, and look at a way of deploying, not these ones I'm saying on screen, NEMA deploy teams. Which team? Where? I'll tell you. Because of what we do, we interact. Over time, it has been Red Cross Society that have been doing the work of SEMA. Yes. I challenge them and I expect them, and not because I want to berate them, but I expect them to live up to expectations. You understand? Last time, I discovered that once one square peg was put in a square hole in Edo SEMA. But for a while now, I've also not heard much. So if it's government funding that is causing the problem, government should wake up and try to fund that young man. Because I met him in one or two programs where he was trying to do sensitization, but not much has been heard from the young man. And I understand where you don't hear much. Sometimes when you are giving an appointment, you are zealous to do your job. And then sometimes you become dissuaded when somebody is asking you, what's your personal interest in this matter? And then you begin to also want to beat a retreat. So I don't know. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying that we're not hearing much from them. I expect them now to go and partner with the major organizations who are interest groups in disaster management, especially the Nigerian Red Cross and a few others, to ensure that this flooding, because we know that areas like Agenebode, Fuga, in Anegbete area, erosion-prone area, what's it called, around Ubiaza area, there are communities there that are always washed off when there are disaster areas. I expect their teams to go to that area now and do this early warning sensitization and see how they can relocate them and then create, it's not just relocating them, because when it's relocated, they don't go there and say, Mona come out, go town, erosion will come. How many of them can afford the transportation from that area, which is not less than 10,000 naira to town?
Indeed, it's a big question, and all of this is just to make a clarion call to the federal government and also the state government to do the needful regarding this, because NEMA, NIMENS, they've come out to play their own part in the capacity they can, even though we're calling out for more, but then it's left for the government of the day to do the needful in all of the states. I really must thank you so much as we leave the conversation here this morning. Mr. Solomon Igugbe, thank you so much for being a part of the show today.